You are listening to The Tatiana Show. This show may contain adult content, language, and humor and is intended for mature audiences. If that's not you, please stop listening. Nothing you hear on The Tatiana Show is intended as financial advice, legal advice, or really anything other than entertainment. Take everything you hear with a grain of salt. Oh, and if you're listening to us on an affiliate network, the ideas and views expressed on this show are not necessarily those of the network that you're listening on or of any sponsors or any affiliate products you may hear about on this show. Now that that's squared away, let's start the show. Hey there, it's time for the show, The Tatiana Show, where you make friends and talk life and crypto. In New York for Blockchain Week, make sure you come by 230 Fifth Ave for a special community event that brings together the brightest stars in crypto. Saturday night, May 11th from 6 p.m. to midnight. Join Tatiana Moroz, Michael Salvi, Naomi Brockwell, Bailey Rutzel, and more of your favorite Bitcoin friends for a night of music, comedy, and live entertainment. It's free to attend, so register now at CryptoStarEvents.com. That's CryptoStarEvents.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Tatiana Show. Today we have Jess Mears, who's manager at the Libertarian Party on the national level, and I'm really excited to be talking a little bit about some of the things that brought me not only to the Liberty world, but then into Bitcoin, and see what are the plans for the 2020 election, which is, I guess, a big one. And before we get started, though, I wanted to make sure that we said a special thank you to our sponsor, Token Talks. Token Talks is a podcast. They talk about crypto, and Wing.vc is the parent company, I guess, for the podcast. So if you want to get a little bit of a perspective, maybe from a VC perspective, you can go to wing.vc/podcast and check out Token Talks. Thanks again for supporting the Tatiana Show, guys. And if you want to listen to more Tatiana shows, y'all can go to thetatianashow.com. Thanks, Jess, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So we've been trying to get this together. We did actually a panel together, I believe, over at PorcFest, which is the Porcupine Freedom Festival up in New Hampshire, which happens every June. People can go and check out PorcFest and maybe go there this year. I'm sure it's going to be another really good one. But what were we on? We were on a panel about women in liberty, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. So normally I don't like to talk about women in liberty because I think of libertarianism as sort of the anti-collectivist ideology. But at the same time, we've definitely increased in numbers. But when I first got started, there were about, six women there. But now we've got a ton of them everywhere I go. So it's become a little bit of a moot point. What do you think has contributed to that?
Yeah, and I've actually seen this myself as I've been an activist for about 12 years now. And my first national convention, when I looked around, I was 21 years old. And really the demographic I couldn't see people that were like me. There were very few students, very few women. And my most recent national convention in 2018, if you look around, there's many women, many young women. And in some of our state parties, we have young women that are serving on executive committees. So the demographic has definitely changed and shifted. And I don't exactly know why more women in the past decade have found the Libertarian Party, but I do see comments from women who want to have more choice with their children. A lot of moms that are tuning into homeschooling, and they're finding more about the Libertarian Party through their homeschooling communities. Canna moms are another demographic that we're seeing a lot more people tuning into the Libertarian Party from just finding out about CBD oil and cannabis treatment for their children and illnesses, and not only for kids, but for themselves as well. So there's all these demographics of libertarian ideas that are kind of getting out there, and libertarians are, I guess, becoming a little bit better of messengers as well.
I've definitely seen a big increase in women at events and everything. And also, I think that there's a lot for women to find in the Libertarian Party, and not just the party itself, but in the philosophy. I think if you really care about the world, libertarianism is pretty much the best solution that I found in my adult life to sort of bring about the most fair situation. Of course, you can't always mitigate circumstances, and nothing is ever going to be a utopia, but I am excited about everything. So what's been going on? How did you get involved with the LP on the national level, and what's that been like for you? If you could give us a little background, that'd be great.
Yeah, definitely. So in 2016, I really got involved with political campaigns, and I've been doing political campaigns for libertarians for a long time now, but 2016 was a really interesting year because it was kind of one of those first years where people could get paid doing political work. The Gary Johnson campaign brought in over $10 million, and that was a significant increase in fundraising to prior presidential campaigns. So I actually was able to quit my full-time job that I have been at for 5 years and work on the Gary Johnson campaign as a full-time staffer. So that's what got me into politics as my day job. And after the Johnson-Weld campaign ended, I ended up working for the National Libertarian Party doing fundraising because we came off of a really successful year, over tripling our election results. And the party needed some more people because the operations grew during that time.
Wow. So do you think that in the era of Trump, there is a place for the LP? Because it's become this sort of thing where people are saying, you know, the lesser of two evils, and Libertarian Party doesn't really have such a strong chance of winning. So do you think that it's distracting people? Or, I mean, on the other side, I guess there's the counter argument. Now you have a voice of reason and it could be pushing people into the LP. What's been your experience?
Definitely. We could talk about this forever. So as part of my role as membership manager is I see the feedback from people that are coming into the party, and I get their comments and I engage and talk with them. And I hear all the time the words, "I'm tired." That's something I just constantly am hearing. The two-party system is literally burning out the voters. And I think 2020 is going to be kind of like a bloodbath year on the national scale for federal politics. And I think our local races are going to kind of be forgotten about, and we're going to see a lot of libertarian success running local in 2020. There's that scene from Game of Thrones. Do you watch Game of Thrones?
Yeah, I'm excited for the new season.
Yeah, so there's that scene where the Mountain, he crushes Prince Oberon's head. Do you remember that one?
Yes, how could I forget?
Yeah, so that to me is, I think, the greatest depiction of what 2020 is going to be like. It's the Democrats and Republicans. They're going for, the Democrats want to get the Senate back and they want the White House back. They're going to do everything they possibly can to get the majority back. And the Republicans want to maintain the White House. They want to retain control of the Senate. So they're also going to be going full in 2020. So I think we're going to see 2020 being one of these years where libertarians are going to be able to win at the local level, just because there's going to be so much emphasis on the federal level. And they're going to be winning with a message of love. The libertarian message is one where if we're going to remove force and coercion out of society, we have to replace it with something. And I think we have to replace it with a lot of empathy and a lot of love and compassion for everyone else in our community. So I think we're going to see libertarians being kind of like the beacon of light and love at their local level in 2020. So that's going to be very interesting. And in 2019, we're already seeing libertarians having victories at the local level. So far, we have had 8 libertarians become elected to public office in 2019 already. And that includes, we had a libertarian elected to city council in Oklahoma last week, and a libertarian elected as treasurer of Harvey, Illinois last week as well. And her name's Aisha Pickett. So we're seeing a libertarian woman just elected as treasurer of a town of 26,000 people. So we're seeing this, and it's actually like really, I'm very excited for the next year and a half of the Libertarian Party, because we're going to come out of this with 2020 being just the year where either the Democrats or Republicans, someone's going to be really upset. And I think libertarians are going to come out of 2020 very excited.
Why do you think that people are going to end up with the LP and not the Green Party, for example? Because I think that there's once in a while some overlap between the two, but obviously as somebody who studied Austrian economics, I can't possibly support the Green Party. Where do you think that understanding is going to come for the people? Because, you know, everybody's all Bernie, but I'm not really sure that that's a feasible solution, even though the promises are really pretty.
Yeah, so the rise in socialism or acceptance of socialist ideas in society right now, we see the Green Party is taking up the Green New Deal as something that they're interested in. And libertarians are obviously vehemently opposed to the Green New Deal. So I think we're going to have a exciting opportunity to kind of show how can libertarians be better environmental stewards. And this came in at the very beginning of the year as a way for libertarians to put these ideas into practice when we did national park cleanups while the government was shut down. And this was just an idea that was inspired by a libertarian in the state of Washington that said at the national office, hey, why don't you guys organize a national mall, like by the White House, cleanup of trash? And at first I thought, this is great. Like, this is going to mean now I have to do more work. I'm already busy. But the more I thought about it, when I reached out to some local libertarians, I was like, this will actually be a lot of fun. And I thought maybe 4 or 5 of us will show up and on a Saturday pick up some trash at the National Mall, which is always covered with trash from tourists that just leave things behind, or if something blows off in the wind, they just let it go. And it turned out about 40 people came out. And I've never seen a lot of these people before. And they just saw on Facebook this event that we had scheduled. And it was one of the most inspiring days I've had since I moved to the Washington, D.C. area, where I thought, wow, if I only knew that being a responsible citizen in your community would touch so many people and encourage them to come out, I would have totally changed the game before and sooner. So when it comes to being environmental stewards, we just did the trash cleanups in over 20 national parks at the beginning of the year during the government shutdown. And that was a way for libertarians to show how our ideas can actually be implemented in society through just doing some volunteer collecting of trash. So I think we'll see libertarians taking stronger positions on the environment thanks to the Green New Deal being introduced. We're going to have more developed and more robust policy positions on environment.
Another strong point for the Libertarian Party and libertarianism in general is basically an anti-war policy, right? An anti-interventionist policy. Do you think that message is getting out anymore? Because as a singer-songwriter, I do a lot of music that has an anti-war focus, but I don't see that reflected on the radio at all. I don't really see that in the media. People are basically, not really very concerned about American involvement in foreign affairs. Has that been something that is on the agenda? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So, this is where I definitely am very interested in making sure that the libertarian message is still constantly anti-war, because it seems like I've grown up with so much war in my life that it's, war protests, we just don't even hear them anymore. We don't see them. And so we're very strong when it comes to speaking out against Syria and interventionism. The Libertarian Party is always quick to say in the media that we are actually the anti-war political party. I think we're also going to be attracting some anti-war candidates in the lead up to 2020 that will be more vocal on it, especially since the Dems and the Republicans really aren't speaking out much on war.
Do you have any idea who's going to be running for the presidential ticket?
So far, there's probably over 40 people that have filed with the FEC. So that's kind of the official list of people that are going to be running for president. And we're doing everything in our power to be prepared. Our national convention is going to be May 21st through 25th in Austin, Texas. And that's where we're going to nominate our presidential and vice presidential candidates. And there's some people who have been actively campaigning already, but that's still over a year out, and a lot could change, and a lot of people could come into the process between now and then.
Wow. Okay, so we've got a big year. Now, what do you think? Some people are saying that Bill Weld is going to do it. Is he?
He is currently right now running for president as a Republican. He's opened an exploratory committee, and I do not know if he has already filed officially to run for president, but he's actively campaigning on an exploratory committee basis as a Republican.
Yeah, that was a bit of a problem, I think, the last time around. People didn't feel that he was libertarian enough. I hope that we get a candidate that's a little bit more in line. Do you think that Gary will run again?
I haven't heard if he plans on running for office again, but I know he definitely wanted to take a really long break after that Senate race, and he did a 3-month bike ride. And so I think he's focusing on his athleticism.
That's a good way to focus. I think that sometimes, first of all, I love Gary. I really do. I thought he was a wonderful candidate. I mean, nobody agrees with everybody, but I think he was a little bit maligned because of the whole Syria thing, whatever. What was it, Aleppo? I mean, whatever. Everybody got all bent out of shape about that. But, when he goes over and focuses on physical activity, it makes me think, this stuff can really burn people out. And there's a lot of infighting and stuff like that. So how do you find the balance? And do you think that that's something that people are going to realize? Because people are going to burn out and we're not necessarily going to have the strength. Granted, we're lucky that a lot of people are finding out about these ideas and there's an influx of fresh and enthusiastic blood. But do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, so I just recently deleted Facebook off of my telephone. I don't have Facebook Messenger. I don't have Facebook on my phone. And when you take your mind out of the social media sphere and focus on what's actually happening in real life, it's a lot easier to be more optimistic, because I do think social media tends to fester the negatives of society and people's complaints. Obviously, people use social media to share positive, happy times with their communities online. But when you step back out of the social media sphere and focus on what is actually going on, there's a lot of things that are really good and positive. And Gary, I know, is not a person to spend time on social media. And so he's focusing on health. And I think that's something people need to do more often. And I've actually really been interested in podcasts lately. And that's a wonderful way to stay up to date and up to speed and know what's happening in the community without having to dive into social media.
What are your podcasts that you're listening to now?
So I listen to the Tom Woods Show quite a bit. I listen to The Fifth Column. That's with Matt Welch of Reason Magazine. And lately I've been listening to Arthur Brooks, and I find him so fascinating. And he is one of these people that is just driving that positive message home. And he's got this book that just came out called Love Your Enemies. And I'm so interested in reading it because his message is basically good people can change society. And we're in the age of Trump where everyone is so upset about politics, whether you hate Trump or love Trump. Politics is just kind of, I think, permeated our culture where people are talking politics all the time. And Arthur came out with this message of love your enemies. Good people are going to change society and bring our country back to greatness. And so I'm very interested to read that message and see how I can be a better messenger to make our country a better place.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to shamelessly plug myself, because something that I've noticed in the libertarian community and the crypto community is a little bit of a over-focus on politics or on the tech and not enough of a focus on growing emotional intelligence. So I don't know if you know Stephanie Murphy. I think she was actually on that panel with us. And my good friend Lauren Kasovitz, we started something called Proof of Love. So if people go to proofoflovecast.com, we talk about all these different things. And one of the things that we had talked about actually was with Carrie Wedler about women in politics and saying that women are oftentimes drawn to the left, whereas there's actually a lot for them to be found in the libertarian world and what kind of causes that. So it's been a nice counter to some of this constant political information. And a lot of that I think can make you feel a little bit powerless. Do you think that there are any misconceptions about libertarianism that prevent people from coming in?
Yeah, and I think there's obviously our platform isn't as large as the two other major parties. So we have to distinguish ourselves differently from the two of them. We don't have, the budget space to put in ads in paper and newspapers and such.
Well, what are some common misconceptions about the LP? Why would somebody who's on the left who maybe agrees with some of our positions, where are there some misconceptions? I think I would say that maybe people think that we're uncaring. And that's why sometimes you don't get women, because we're not really exactly into welfare. But maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. And that goes to the message of loving our neighbors and not imposing our own morals onto other people in our communities and letting people know what's best for their own individual lives. And we're seeing a lot of wins in the libertarian sphere. While maybe we're not seeing wins as getting elected to congressional seats, we're still, of course, going to continue trying. But we're seeing libertarian ideas influencing in policy. And I have this giant list of them that I've been presenting at state conventions this spring. And we're seeing things like marriage equality. People can marry somebody of the same gender. That's kind of done and over with. Like, that's done. Constitutional carry is taking root in some states. Dying with dignity. That's an issue that everybody faces with people in their lives that have terminal illness. Like Alzheimer's is something that runs in my family. And that's an issue with women that are caring for their loved ones. That's an option that's out there now. If you would like to end your life with compassion, you can do so in some states.
Actually, if I could, I had brought that up to an aunt of mine, and we were talking about abortion and, all these things that are going on. And she said that one of the bad things that people don't foresee with ending someone's life early is that if you have an incentive program, for example, like what happened in the UK when they had that little baby, and the people, they had raised the money and they wanted to take the little baby. Now, I believe that there were some other things going on in that case, but if you have a place where the state is in charge of healthcare, or the insurance company has an incentive to cut off your healthcare because they're saying, oh, well, it's terminal. Is that something that has been considered?
Let's see. Well, I'm definitely not a medical expert, but I believe in that case, the little boy was on life support, and the family wanted to keep him on life support. And libertarians, of course, would say, if this is what you were the one to do for your child, you should be able to do so. And I don't know all the details in that specific case.
Yeah, I worry about the incentives from if you have government-run healthcare to all of a sudden start getting rid of people. But I mean, that's a whole big other discussion, which we can leave for another time. But I had been so supportive of that position before, but I'd never thought of that potential. Well, wait a second. What if somebody else is making that decision and they're pressuring somebody in a way that we're not foreseeing? But regarding sex work, that's been a really big topic for the libertarian community, and sometimes a little bit misunderstood.
Sure.
Maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So in 2018, the National Party added sex work as we incorporated it into our official national platform. And I can read that to you as to what we incorporated. It's section 2.10, sex work. The Libertarian Party supports decriminalization of prostitution. We assert the right of consenting adults to provide sexual services to clients for compensation, and the rights of clients to purchase sexual services from consenting workers. So since we've added this into our platform, I've actually seen an increase in sex workers joining the Libertarian Party. And we've formed a sex workers' rights caucus, and these are individuals that are going to be actually working on behalf of advocates for the sex work industry to have the libertarian conversation, libertarian perspective. And Kamala Harris she's running for president as a Democrat, one of the top polling candidates. She's come out in favor of sex work as well.
Yeah, I think it's a very misunderstood issue, but at the end of the day, in order to protect the women that are working in that industry, it seems that legalization would be the best. Oftentimes they're abused by law enforcement, and there's just a whole slew of unintended consequences that usually fall on the workers and not on anyone else. And of course, the idea of consent is an important thing for people to be talking about, because, they're always talking about it in the context of rape, but this is sort of a little bit of a different perspective. So how can people get involved with the LP if they're listening to this and they're thinking, okay, maybe there's some stuff here that I'm interested in? What do they do?
I would always recommend someone start with our party platform and check it out. It's lp.org/platform. And this is how I first became a libertarian. I was looking at the different political parties and checking out all of their platforms. And when I read the libertarian platform, I'm like, this all makes sense. I must be a libertarian. And so if you agree with a majority of the Libertarian Party platform and you feel like this speaks mostly to you, you can get involved with your state party, find out what they're doing, what they're working on. Some of our states are more organized than others. So if you have leadership skills or you want to work on improving your leadership skills, you can always get involved as a leader at the local or the state level.
Yeah, absolutely. I have the New Jersey LP here. One other thing that I wanted to mention before before we wrap up was to say thank you for the support that the LP has given to Ross Ulbricht, who's now serving a double life plus 40-year sentence for all nonviolent crimes. And can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, was that a risky position for you guys to take? Because I consider Ross Ulbricht to be a political prisoner, but how did the LP view the situation?
We are not afraid to take risky positions. The Libertarian Party is the party of no fear. We are bold, and when we know that we are coming from a position where we are correct, we will definitely stand firmly on that. And so the Ross Ulbricht's resolution that was presented by, I believe it was Darryl Perry of New Hampshire at our 2018 National Convention, I just had in one of my publications that I managed, we put out not only that resolution, but a Reason article where some of the charges for murder for hire were dropped. And so that was an update that we wanted to make sure our audience knew about. So in one of our printed publications, we even gave Ross's address where people can write to Ross, since he likes getting letters from people while he's imprisoned. I think he's in solitary confinement.
Not right now. He was thankfully he was moved to another prison, and it's much better. I don't know all the details, but it's less of a dangerous facility than where he was before, which is good. Very important.
That was good. Yeah. So we put that in one of our publications that I wish I had at hand with me right now so I could show it to you. But yes, we're supporters of people who've been imprisoned for nonviolent crimes. We totally support them being released.
Do you think that there is a chance for one of these Republican, because I don't think a Democratic candidate is necessarily going to come over, although, I mean, they have a lot of crazy stuff going on their side and they might want to jump ship. But do you think it's possible that, for example, a Rand Paul would come in and try and run on a libertarian ticket? Or do you think that's still a few years out? I mean, do you think we're going to grow a lot more? Obviously you do. I feel pretty optimistic that the party will grow as well. But do you think it'll ever be such a strong force that it can actually go up against in this two-party system? And what happened with Gary suing them for not letting them in, actually?
Sure.
I never figured out what happened with that.
So we have never had a sitting member of Congress or as a member of the Libertarian Party. There's members of Congress that are independents, but none that are libertarians. So if anyone out there is elected to the Senate or to the House and is interested in flipping to the Libertarian Party, please contact me, because we would love to have a libertarian legislature at the federal level. It's certainly possible, and we're open to those meetings and having those conversations. And so if that does happen, it will be incredibly big news, and I look forward to having a full press release on the steps of the Capitol building, having a sitting legislature switch to the Libertarian Party. And if that doesn't happen from a Republican or a Democrat or an independent switching, I look forward to the day when we have an elected Libertarian in the House or the Senate. And Larry Sharpe, who ran for governor of New York in 2018, has this plan that he has been presenting. And it's a 7-year plan to the White House. And in that plan, he says if we just get one person elected to Congress, it'll completely shift the game for us. So I'm very eager to find out when that's going to be. And with Gary Johnson and the level the playing field debate, lawsuit, that right now it is waiting to be picked up and move forward. It could be picked up to move forward tomorrow, or it could be 3 months from now. We really don't know. But we are actively watching the Level the Playing Field lawsuit, which is with the Commission on Presidential Debates, which is supposed to be a nonprofit organization that is funded by Anheuser-Busch and all of these other big, huge corporations that are funding it.
Do you think it's a bad thing when corporations are involved in this? What is the libertarian position on corporations having personhood?
Mm-hmm. So obviously libertarians and for financial contributions to campaigns and such, we don't want to restrict it, but we personally only accept donations from individuals. We do not, as libertarians, we try to set the example. We do not accept contributions from corporations, from PACs, only from individuals. how we are funded.
Excellent. Okay. Well, I think we've covered a lot. We've given them enough to wet their whistle. Everybody should go over to lp.org and find out more. Jess, if they want to talk to you, you're their membership manager. What do they do?
Feel free to send me an email, jess.mears@lp.org. I am happy to hear from you, and I really am thankful for the opportunity to share not only some things from the Libertarian Party, but my personal perspective as well.
Awesome. You know what? I was going to finish the show, but I have one more question for you. What about cryptocurrency and the LP? What's going on with that? You guys have been big supporters.
Yeah.
Is there more interest in the LP getting involved with Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies?
Yes, definitely. I am not an expert in crypto. I have some, but I'm not necessarily an expert in it. And we have a lot of advocates for the cryptocurrency community as libertarians. So if anybody's interested in helping us get more involved in the community, please feel free to reach out to me, and I would love to speak with you about it.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us today. And everybody, make sure you go to lp.org and get active. Thank you once again to our sponsor, Token Talks. Check out thetatianashow.com and get all of our latest episodes. And also be sure to check out Proof of Love, proofoflovecast.com, and raise your emotional intelligence, not only your political intelligence. Thanks very much for joining me today.
Thanks.
What's the point of all this technology without a little love in our lives? Our hosts, Tatiana Moroz, Dr. Stephanie Murphy, and Lauren Kasovitz, have come together to bring you Proof of Love. Go to proofoflovecast.com.
Ross Ulbricht is serving a double life sentence without parole for all nonviolent charges for creating a website. Please help free this peaceful man. Go to freeross.org and sign and share the petition.
Hey there, it's time for the show, the Tatiana Show, where you make friends and talk life and crypto. We gotta think and reflect and use lots of intellect with our hearts when we work together. I know that it can be so hard out there, looking all around and saying that life ain't fair. So that is why we will fight and stay up late at night, listening to the Tatiana Show. Thank you for listening to the Tatiana Show. Please follow us on Twitter at Queen Tatiana or on Facebook and Instagram at Tatiana Moroz Music. More episodes can be found at thetatianashow.com, and make sure you leave a review on iTunes and tell your friends. The Tatiana Show has been brought to you by CryptoMediaHub.com, a boutique marketing and PR agency for Bitcoin and beyond.